Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Mullen.
And I'm Jennifer Mullen.
One of the only downsides of planning way ahead for caregiving can be that the wrong person gets assigned the wrong duty. In this episode, we're going to discuss what you can do when the wrong person is assigned power of attorney and is making a mess of your elderly loved one's life in one way or another. But first, Jennifer, how was your mom?
Your inflections tonight are funny.
Okay.
Mom's doing well. We spent an entire day this week at a local hospital doing a follow-up from the TIA that she had several weeks ago. So this was a brain scan test that needed to be done as a follow-up.
I think it's been about 6 weeks, by the way.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
so I said several weeks ago.
More than several. I would say upwards of 2 months.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyone out there listening, if you would also like to contact us and give us your opinion on what several constitutes, I would love to hear
3.
it. Oh my God. That's a few. That's not several.
It's the same thing.
No.
They're synonyms.
It is not. Oh
Anywho,
my goodness.
All right,
digress.
so you were at
Squirrel.
the neurologist.
Where's George? We need
Where is
George.
George? I'll get George.
George, we need George here with us. So anyway, we were at the hospital. It was, a day-long thing. You get there and you have to take this one pill, although I'm going to get to that in a second, and then you wait, and then they have to do an injection, and then you have to wait 3.5 more hours, and then you come back and they do the pictures of the brain, and that takes 30 minutes. So it's a big, long, involved thing. But learned something, like this is a tip for everyone out there, and it may be easier to compile this information for some than others, but definitely a good idea to have as much medical history at your fingertips as you can. And any of you who have been listening, my brother and I have been taking care of my mom in some way, shape, or form for a really long time, and a million doctor's appointments over the years, and 2 different knee replacements and 2 different obstructed bowel surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely remember the big ones. But we're sitting there first thing in the morning, and the first pill that they give her for this test is related to her thyroid. And they said, well, we give you this. That way, the radiation medication that we're going to inject into you and doing the pictures, the radiation doesn't get to your thyroid. And Gagi said, oh, well, I've had my thyroid taken out. And I kind of paused for a second, and then I was like, well, right. Yes, I definitely remember something with thyroid. And I know she's on some thyroid medication. So I'm quickly texting my brother, because the thing is if she had her thyroid out, she wouldn't have had to take the pill, which means we would have shaved an hour off of the day. So of course we all want to do this. So I'm texting my brother, and he's like, yes, but I don't remember if they took all the glands out. And so we have a little bit of back and forth, and he had the good suggestion. He's like, well, maybe her primary care, probably has that noted somewhere. And he, by the way, mentioned, and he wasn't being passive aggressive about it, but he was like, you're the one who took her. And he's, I don't totally remember. I really have very little recollection of that particular doctor's visit a long time ago. So anyway, call her primary. And thankfully they did have notes in her file, but it was not her thyroid. It was her parathyroid. And she didn't have stuff completely removed. It was like certain pieces of things removed. So we almost could have made an unfortunate decision about whether or not to take. I mean, I think we would have landed with better safe than sorry and just taken the pill and waited the hour. But, mom's sitting there, she's 86 years old, and she so confidently said, oh yeah, I had my thyroid taken out. Nope. No, she did not.
She didn't have one thyroid taken out. She had a parathyroids taken out.
Oh my God.
Yep. Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, people.
But it's important.
Get dumb dad jokes like this all the time.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's important, though, particularly with somebody like your mother who has had a wide variety of health problems over the last 25, 30, 35 years.
Yes.
Like you said, I mean, just all this various different stuff that's not connected. And I mean, you got to somehow keep track of it.
Well, you do. And I mean, it was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. Number one, just to be reminded that even she doesn't fully remember all the things, right? She thought she had one procedure done. That was not the procedure she had done. But I and my brother, like, again, we remember the big things. You don't forget things like knee replacement surgery. You don't forget 2 hospital stays with obstructed bowel, surgery. Like, those are really big things. As it turns out, parathyroid, not full thyroid, which is parathyroid, is like even a totally different organ. That was an outpatient procedure. That's why I didn't remember it. I mean, we've probably had many outpatient procedures, most of which I don't remember all of the details for. So anyway, tip out there. And, like I said, it might be easier for some than others, but try to have as much of that. Try to make sure you've got that in your knowledge bank, and try to make sure you also have it at your fingertips so that you can answer questions accurately. So anyway, that was our adventure for the week. So Steve, how's your mom?
She's fine. Just a really quick little funny story from the assisted living. Just, you interact with all these old people, and every so often one of them says something that just strikes you as extremely amusing, even though they didn't mean to.
Have I heard this?
No, I don't think you have. I was, when I go visit...
Preparing to be amused.
Exactly. When I go to visit my mother, I usually go up there and then spend an hour to an hour and a half, and then I roll her up to the dining room, and then I leave. So I was taking her to the dining room. I was getting her at her table, and this one of her women that's in her friend group, I guess you'd say, came walking up. Her name is Gail. She's very sweet, tiny little old lady. Lost her husband just a few months ago, but she's a very nice lady. And it was warm outside. So spring in Virginia. One day can be 85, one day can be 50. You just don't know. On this particular day, it was about 80 degrees, and I was just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And she walked up and she said, "Oh, hi. Do you like wearing short pants?"
Okay.
I was trying not to laugh at her. I mean, it's like such an old lady thing to say. Do you like wearing short pants?
Did she think maybe like it wasn't appropriate for you to be wearing short pants?
I cannot imagine that's what she was thinking. I mean, I'm a visitor. I'm not getting dressed up to go to the assisted living.
Yeah.
It was just, it struck me as amusing and kind of a funny thing to say. And I tried not to laugh at her face. I said, yes, I do like wearing shorts.
And was that the end of it?
And that was the end of it.
Okay.
That was the end of it. Huh. Just a little.
She just wanted to know.
Short pants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like toddlers, right? You can't predict what's going to come out of their mouths.
You really can't.
Yeah.
So before we get into the meat of this episode, we have a listener email to discuss. Comes from Jody from Buffalo and Buffalo, New York, and Jennifer is going to read it.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say how happy I am that I've stumbled upon your podcast. Well, thank you so much, Jody. We appreciate that. I have learned so much, and I find myself listening while I'm driving and trying to write things down on a notepad.
And can I interrupt for a second?
Jody, don't do that while you're driving. Please.
Please don't do that.
I have 2 elderly parents, and one is getting deeper into dementia, while the other refuses to do anything about it. My mother wants to be the only caregiver for my father. She's refusing help from the family, and it's very frustrating to me and my sister. My sister is a nurse and was in charge of doing his pills and making sure that he's okay. Then my mother decided that she wanted to take over doing everything, which caused an argument with my sister. My mother now refuses any help from us. We don't know if he's taking the right pills. We see his dementia getting worse, and she doesn't want to tell us anything that's going on with him medically. It is such a mess. Why am I writing to you guys? I'm wondering if you've heard of situations like this or come across any ways to deal with parents who will not take help. I'm not sure how to deal with it all because at the moment, my hands are tied. It is so frustrating and sad to see my family fall apart. So first, let's just say we are so sorry that this is happening, Jody. Caregiving, as we've talked about many, many, many times, is stressful under the best of circumstances. So when you've got something like that unfolding in your family, I can only imagine how difficult that is.
And it can tear families apart, unfortunately, and for so many different reasons that have nothing to do with each other. But I will say, I got this email from Jody, and I went ahead and answered her. I didn't make her wait for us to do the episode first. And what I suggested was, if she was concerned that her father was not being cared for in a safe way, that she might have to pull out the big guns. I mean, the first thing I suggested was check her local area agency on aging and see if there was like social worker or social help, someone that could possibly give her some advice on what her options are in their local area, because laws are different from area to area, county to county. And that's probably the best place to start. I mean, it may need to go as far as going through the legal system to get control of the whole thing.
Well, there's adult protective services,
yes, adult
right?
Protective
Just like there's
services.
child protective services, there's adult protective services.
Right.
But yeah, those are big guns.
Those are big guns. And I'm hoping it doesn't come to that for her, because that's, again, the kind of thing that can tear a family apart. Her mother would probably be very angry about that. And it's not a good situation.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I mean, hopefully, Jody, I know this sounds so simple and it's probably something you've already tried, but, if there's any way that you can try to get in your mother's ear and say, can we please just all like sit down together and try to talk this through? And where are the ways that, my sister and I can help you? Where are the areas that, you want to maintain some control? Because again, right, a lot of it is about control. It's about
we
control.
We did a whole episode on it.
We did a whole episode on it. So I wonder if maybe using some of that language of, what do you want to have control over, Mom, versus where can we help you?
And where can we help? Maybe that's the way to put it. And just present yourself as almost like her assistant.
Support system.
Yeah,
right.
And a support system,
we're just here for
taking
support.
over.
Right. We're not here to take over.
And
we're not here to tell you what to do.
I'm not making any assumptions about how things were done previously. We have no idea, but maybe that's the way to go. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but that's one suggestion.
Yeah. And maybe have the conversation first with your sister, and then you make sure you and your sister have sort of the united front about how you then want to talk with your mom. So best wishes, and let us know if you have any updates at any point. Let us know how it goes and how hopefully ultimately you were able to maybe tackle this problem.
And I'd like to point out that Jody did give us permission to use her first name, so we didn't have to come up with a pseudonym and call her quote unquote something.
Thank goodness.
And
Jody, thank you so much.
I did remember that last time we had to do that, you made me promise that next time you could come up with the name. And you can hold me to that.
Okay.
So next time you get to come up with
next time we're doing the quote unquote, okay.
Yes.
I'm going to come up with something outrageous.
So let's get into the meat of the episode. This episode is a bit specific, but it does bring up a problem that can absolutely, positively happen. We actually saw this unfold in real time recently with people we know. For their privacy, we're not going to give a lot of details, but the long and short of it is that the person who was assigned power of attorney for an elderly person was not stable mentally.
Or at least is not stable now. Maybe they were years ago.
On this podcast, we always tell folks to plan ahead. And one of the things you can do is to have the power of attorney in place long before it's actually necessary. We've mentioned my mom assigned me power of attorney when I was probably 32 years old, not long after my father passed away, which was great. I didn't need it back then. Haven't really needed it until about a handful of years ago. But it's kind of a good thing to do, except in a situation like this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, making sure that these documents are in place is a great idea. But, what if you do that and then when the caregiving is needed, you discover that the wrong person was assigned control over medical and or financial decisions? This can create an enormous problem because that person is now in charge. Like, they are legally in charge. And if they're making mistakes with medical decisions or even actively stealing money, something's going to have to be done to rectify the situation. And the people that we're talking about that we know, I mean, there were some pretty serious, unfortunate medical things that were not being handled properly.
Exactly. Now, right off the bat, we will remind you, we are not lawyers.
Nope.
We did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
We don't play one on TV.
No, we don't. We are caregivers and podcasters. If you find yourself in this situation, the first thing you'll want to do is actually contact an elder law attorney, a real one, for advice, not like a podcaster. In this episode, we'll just give you an outline of what the solutions could look like. The attorney will make sure it gets done.
Yeah, in some situations, revoking a power of attorney can be a fairly straightforward process. However, that's only if your elderly loved one is of sound mind. So, if they don't have significant dementia or any other mental deficits that would keep them from making important decisions, The only thing you have to do is just simply get a notarized revocation of power of attorney document. After doing that, after you have it notarized, they'll no longer have anyone assigned as power of attorney, and then they can decide if they want to assign it to someone else.
Right. And you may have to have a doctor actually assess your elderly loved one to decide whether they can determine whether they are competent to sign stuff like this. Yeah. And that may be something you have to do if there's a question about it. But if this is the path you take, you want to make sure that your loved one's bank is notified, any other financial institutions, to let them know that there is no longer a power of attorney or that it has changed, because they will not be notified otherwise. If a medical power of attorney was assigned, you'll need to notify their doctors so that, the other person can no longer have access to medical records and stuff. It's important, again, because those institutions won't be notified about the change automatically just because you signed a piece of paper.
Yeah, they would have no way of knowing.
And it's likely that you'll have to send them a copy of the revocation and the new power of attorney if there is one. And you can do that all at the same time.
Yeah, and definitely, side note, I scan and save documents all the time related to my mom, and I have them in a cloud drive so that I can easily pull them up at any moment on my phone. So make sure to, paper copies, great. I get it. Paper copies are great, but, consider also scanning documents in. I'm not just talking about POA documents, but any documents that you have that are important, consider scanning them in and making sure you have just like a file on your computer where everything is safe.
Yeah, I have my mother's power of attorney scanned in and saved in a Dropbox folder.
Yeah.
And so it makes it really easy. I can just send someone a link to it and they can have access to it.
And if paper copies is just the way that you want to go, just make sure you've got them in a Firebox.
Well, and also there's a lot of places that won't take a digital copy.
Right.
You have to.
True.
A lot of places
Fair.
You actually have to hand them the original so they can look at it because it's got the notary stamp on it. And a lot of times when you scan it, it doesn't show up very well. And neat little trick about that, though. If you take a pencil and just gently rub it over the top of the seal, it shows up a lot better on a scan or a copy.
Yeah.
So I've done that.
Okay.
So it can actually be seen.
I'm going to say side note, by the way, about Fireboxes, only because we just learned this one the hard way.
Yeah.
Make sure you do a little research on which type of Firebox you're buying, because I believe Santa brought them to our children a few years ago. I know Santa's really exciting when the kids get a little older. It was not the most exciting gift,
but the kids were getting older and they had their own stuff to keep track of. And our Firebox was getting overflowing.
Right. They have their passports, they have their social security cards, definitely important documents they need to keep, except the particular brand of Firebox that we bought was not fully what's the word I'm looking for?
Airtight?
Yeah.
No, actually it was because it was too
so
airtight. Some Fireboxes they seal up so tightly that moisture gets trapped in there and then mold begins to grow.
Yeah.
And we went to look for the kids' passports. I don't even remember why. I think Jackson needed it for something, for an employment thing. For
an internship he was doing. Right. He needed forms of ID and his passport was a disaster. Thankfully not completely destroyed, but it had gotten all moldy and...
Well, and the funny thing was we had seen that and we asked him, what did you do? Because he had the Firebox with him at school and he said, oh, I don't know. I may have transported it in the back of the truck. Maybe it rained or something. Yeah. I don't know. And we're like, oh, geez, be more responsible next time. And then I was looking, Hannah recently got a new vehicle. She purchased herself a new vehicle and we were going to donate the old one because it wasn't in very good shape. So I was looking for the title and I thought it was in her Firebox, which was still in our house, even though she doesn't live here. And it was under the bed. I pulled it out. Same thing. Yeah. And then we had to go back and kind of apologize to Jackson a little bit for giving him a hard time.
But anyway, seriously, yes, this is a little bit of a side note. This was a little bit of a squirrel for our friend George, except that actually, seriously, if you're keeping important documents for someone that you are providing care for, make sure you're keeping them in a safe place. And I'm not kidding, seriously, because, didn't you go do you took the brand of firebox we had, which by the way, they're fine fireboxes, but when you went and looked at some reviews, it specifically said...
It did. So, I mean, the answer to it, by the way, and God, we are so off track here, but I went out and bought, those desiccant packs, the little chemical packs that you find in when you buy stuff. A lot of times they come in the packaging to reduce moisture, and that's what we needed to do.
But this is actually, we're talking about important documents and documents that you're getting notarized, and depending on how you want to file them away for yourself, I feel like that was a very useful tip. So
useful tips.
Thank you to all of our listeners. Or no, you're welcome to all of our listeners. That's what I meant to say.
One further thing, if you do suspect that the person who was holding power of attorney has opened credit cards or other bank accounts, you may need to freeze your loved one's credit in order to make sure that other damage is not done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, not just the one specific credit card,
right?
But actually through a credit reporting, right?
Like a credit reporting agency,
bureau,
you can
whatever.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So all those things we're talking about at this point are if your elderly loved one is of sound mind. But what if they're not? What if they're, not deemed to be mentally capable? Well, it definitely gets a little bit more complicated.
A lot more complicated.
If they lack the capacity to revoke the POA, family members or other, interested parties are going to have to petition the courts to remove the agent. So this obviously can be very time consuming. I would imagine also potentially expensive. While going through this process, you may need to ask the court for a temporary restraining order against the current holder of the power of attorney so they can't do any more damage. I know these are some really sort of dark, depressing things that we are talking about here, but truly we can't emphasize enough to all of you out there what we are witnessing right now up close and personal with some people in our lives. It's serious.
It's very serious.
So yeah, I mean, it can devolve quick because I feel like this situation has devolved quickly.
Right. And, one thing to note is the court may assign a conservator and it may not be a member of the family. So it just an uninterested party who is going to keep track of what's being done. And their job is to be neutral.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I'm relating back to kids because of course we're sandwich generation, so I'm always thinking about the kid part of it too. But it's what do they call it? A guardian ad litem, right? Like you have a child.
I'm impressed. I do not know that word.
It comes from my true crime expertness.
Of course it does. Enthusiasmness,
expertness. But yeah, sometimes a court will appoint a guardian ad litem to basically represent the child in certain situations. So this is very similar to that. So like we said, I mean, this can be very complicated, very, very messy. Relationships will be damaged or destroyed, but in the end, the health and well-being of your loved one is obviously the most important thing.
Right. And if you go this route, you'll also need to be able to prove that the person who is holding power of attorney is not acting in your loved one's best interests. So you'll need to keep track of things. You'll need to document things. It could mean they're badly managing money, mismanaging money. They're even actively stealing or committing fraud, like we said, opening up credit cards that your loved one doesn't even know about. Or it could mean they're mismanaging your loved one's health in a way that could be dangerous to them.
Incorrect medications,
yes.
whether intentionally, unintentionally.
Or not intentionally, yeah. They just may not be doing anything right, and you have to document this stuff because you have to be able to show why you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, another step that you might want to consider, and this is particularly important if your loved one lives with the person who currently holds the power of attorney, is to involve your local adult protective services, like we mentioned at the beginning of this episode. If they determine that your loved one is being mistreated, your loved one could be removed from the premises and placed elsewhere. So this might mean a local nursing home or, if necessary, a hospital. A good first step to doing this can be to contact your local area agency on aging.
Once again, they're so helpful.
Yeah, they are. And that was good advice, Steve, that you gave Jody as a resource, right? We've talked about that before too. Try to figure out what your tools and resources are and use them. That's what they're there for.
In most cases, they will provide social services to anybody who asks that needs it. And it's a good starting point.
Yep, they will help get the ball rolling. And if your area's agency on aging is not particularly robust, some aren't. I would imagine, especially if you're in maybe some really rural areas.
Low population counties, it's not very robust.
you may end up needing to contact the police first. And again, it's a matter of using the resources that are at your fingertips and, do what you have to do with the reminder. The most important thing is your loved one and making sure that they are being taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And we do have one more tip for once you've gotten the old power of attorney revoked and the new one signed. If you have to move your loved one to a new nursing home, some other community like that, whether it's assisted living or skilled nursing, whatever, you can ask that their registration be confidential. The reason for that is that the person who previously held the POA may come looking for them. I mean, if this is blowing up in a very, very ugly, bad way, that could happen. But that'll make it a little less easy for them to figure out where they are. Also, make sure the facility knows that that person is barred from visiting. Having a restraining order will certainly help with that. But if you now have power of attorney, you'll have some say over who's allowed to visit and who is not. And I mean, this is all very ugly stuff. But I mean, this stuff with people we know that we've been talking about. It's certainly not the first time I've seen a family split apart by caregiving.
Yeah,
and it can just people don't agree with things that are being done, and it just starts to get ugly very quickly.
Yeah. And you think it's like something you only see on TV, right? Or see in a movie or hear about, oh, that's happening to someone else. But then when you start to see it happen, you're like, man, like it really can happen. And it does feel a little bit like a TV movie for sure, but not for entertainment purposes. And it's awful to watch. And this is all, ugly, awful stuff to talk about. But if you're in a situation like this, and Jody, certainly we hope that your situation doesn't devolve into anything quite this bad, but hopefully maybe there are some tips in here for you for, potentially how to deal with some of this. We wish you all the best. We wish anybody the best who ends up in a situation like this. Hope it doesn't happen to most of you out there listening, though.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you have a question, a comment, inquiry, whatever, we have options. You can email us, caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com, just like Jody did. You can send us a text or leave a voicemail, 804-723-1221. You can find us on Twitter, @GenXCaregiving is the handle. Go to Facebook, please. That is where I post the most. And you will find on Facebook, for instance, in our last episode, we had an interruption by a cat. One of our cats interrupted the interview, and I did post a picture of that super adorable but not very smart cat.
And I have the other one sitting right behind me right now. She's ready for us to go sit out on the deck and enjoy the evening.
Right. She's been hovering around this whole time.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can get to our Facebook page. The best thing to do is to go to the show notes in the episode and click on the link that's there. It'll take you right to it, and click on the like button, and you'll get all kinds of content. So we hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.